toy cars, toy guns, playing with other children, and spending time with schoolmates, chatting and joking with friends and family. Those are dreams of most children, then and now. However, Cesar Raul Meza Torres was not among those children. He was the youngest hitman of the Sinaloa cartel, and he knew exactly what he wanted long before he turned 15. This teenager wanted to become a sicario for the Sinaloa cartel. Raul was not the only 15-year-old sicario in Mexico. There were many. But unlike his juvenile peers, there was something special about Raul. Something that other teenage hitmen clearly didn't have. Join me as we discover the life and death of the youngest hitman of the Sinaloa cartel. One of the most disturbing and strange concepts in the world of narcotics is the use of minors like Raul in drug selling, distribution, and even involving them in their violent activities. It is a sickening reality that has gone on for decades. Some older cartel members order the poor younglings to carry out hit jobs on their behalf. According to the study, an estimated 30,000 children were already working for the cartels as lookouts, street-level drug dealers, or sicarios. And another 250,000 were at risk of being recruited. The sad reality is, from 2000 to 2019, 21,000 children were murdered in Mexico as a result of the violent activities of various cartels. The young generation had no choice but to join the cartels because of the promised escape from poverty and protection from rival cartels. But Raul Meza Torres' case is different because Raul was not poor and he definitely did not need protection from rival cartels. It may be just the opposite. They needed protection from him. And so, who was Cesar Raul Meza Torres? And why did he deserve such attention compared to the children of his age? Cesar Raul Meza Torres was born in Culiacan, Sinaloa on October 31, 1991. And from his birth, you could tell there was going to be something extraordinary in this young boy's future. Why? Everyone in his family is a member of the Sinaloa cartel. His father, Raul Meza Ontiveros, was a legend in the Sinaloa cartel, commonly referred to as LM6. He was the right hand of Javier Torres Felix, aka LJT, who is the leading drug operator of the mysterious and notorious narcotics drug lord Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Raul's father had an impressive criminal resume and was an experienced escapee of the law. LM6 was arrested by the Sinaloan police in 1989 for several counts of homicide. However, he managed to free himself. But a year later, he was again charged for kidnapping and assaulting 2 women. But once again, he proved himself too slippery and managed to get off. It was not until May 27, 1997, that the old Raul found himself in a situation that proved almost impossible to escape. He was arrested by the feds and was led to a safe house that held 384 kilograms of Colombian cocaine, along with weapons and several cars that had been customized for distribution. The young Raul was 6 years old then. This discovery earned Raul's father a 10-year sentence, but again, miracles happen. Maybe because he was a Sinaloan drug lord, Raul's father got out after just spending a year behind bars. In the eyes of the law, the senior Raul was a hardened criminal who was only walking free because of the rot in the system. But for his 7-year-old Raul, his papa was a legend. Cesar Raul Meza Torres' mother, Ada Elizabeth Torres Felix, was a sister of LJT, Raul's father's boss, who happened to have another equally notorious brother named Manuel Torres Felix, aka LM1. Several of his relatives were heavily involved in the family business. By the time Raul hit puberty, he got a girlfriend, Teresa Zambada Nibla, the daughter of El Mayo Zambada himself. Raul can be seen as a narcotics royalty, and he could not conceptualize a life outside of crime. He learned the drug trafficking business while specializing in the use of guns. And so, people around young Raul started to notice his capabilities and possible leadership in the cartel. He was one of their youngest assassins. They began to call him L-Mini-6, a derivative of his father's alias LM6. Raul tried to make a name of his own. The older members of the cartel respected him. The younger ones admired him as he became popular as a narcotics social media influencer, which convinced several young Mexican boys his age to join the cartels. Raul had turned the terrible reality of drug pushing and mayhem into one glorious adventure. Regardless of whether it was deliberate or simply consequence of his age and times. We know, however, that he was living his dream life and everything was going according to plan. However, a tragedy struck in March 2007. Raul's father was killed in a shootout with some armed men, but the details of his death remain a mystery. Raul's family refused to cooperate with the police, and so no one was charged or arrested in connection with the old Raul's death. The death of his father would be viewed by most people as a warning and a lesson about the consequences of living a violent life. But Raul doubled down on his delinquency. His violent lifestyle was now running on steroids, and he became more reckless, which soon resulted in an even more tragic end. On August 9, 2007, just a few months after his father's death, Raul was driving through the Las Quintas neighborhood of Culiacan along with two friends when policemen pulled them over. The police discovered the car was stolen when they intercepted them in an armored vehicle with no license plates. Raul claimed the car was his, but he had no paperwork to back his claim, so the cops had no choice but to arrest him. However, since he was a minor, he wouldn't stay long in prison, or maybe it was because of his family's connections. He was like the fish in the water where violence was his way of life. In 2009, Raul had his second encounter with the police. He was drag racing in Las Quintas, the same area where he had been arrested 2 years prior. Some cops showed up and ordered the races to stop. Raul could have stopped and just left in peace, but he decided to take the easy way out and began shooting at the police instead. The police responded with fire, and in the end, one of the policemen was injured. Meanwhile, Raul and his accomplices managed to escape. In spite of their efforts, they left one of their cars behind. And when state authorities investigated later, they discovered that the abandoned vehicle belonged to Raul Meza Torres. They also found ammunition of various kinds within the car. As a result of Raul's reckless reign of terror, he had now become a wanted man, and an active countdown had begun. Raul got into a final confrontation with Mexican police officers on April 29, 2010. A few months after he turned 18, in the city of Zapopan, Jalisco, the police discovered what appeared to be a suspicious vehicle while patrolling Los Aguilas neighborhood. Inside the vehicle was 18-year-old Raul Meza Torres and his 22-year-old friend Fidel Rojas Felix, who also happened to be a member of the Sinaloa cartel and also on the wanted list of the Mexican police. At that moment, the police did not realize who they were but demanded to search the gentleman's vehicle. So Raul and Felix were left with two choices. Either they could stand down and let the police finish their search, risking their identities being discovered, or they could fight back and escape. At this point, you can probably guess what choice Raul went for. Anyway, he was no longer a minor. In the event that he had been arrested, he knew he would be sentenced to a lengthy jail term. So both men grabbed their guns and tried to intimidate the cops by shooting into the air. But the unintimidated policeman responded by telling them to calm down and surrender themselves. As he turned his gun on the policeman, Raul opened fire, killing one officer in the process and injuring a second, who managed to shoot Raul before he was killed. Felix fled on foot as soon as he saw his friend had been shot, but other policemen in the area chased him and caught him on a nearby rooftop. With the murder of one police officer and attempted murder of another, Raul and his friend Felix were in a lot of trouble. The police also found weapons in their car, handguns, and multiple rounds of ammunition. However, only Felix had the chance to defend himself because Raul died from his gunshot wounds. He had been rushed to a hospital that night but was pronounced dead the next morning. Some weird things came to surface. In Raul's memory, he also had multiple injuries on his head, suggesting that he had been hit several times by a hard object. This conflicted with the original reports of the police. Felix tried to pin down Raul, who was now dead and could not defend himself. He claimed the weapons found in the vehicles did not belong to them and were simply carried for Colonel Villarreal Felix, a senior cartel member they had met earlier. But the court didn't buy his story though. Rojas Felix was sent to jail for killing a cop and attempting to kill another. As of today, no one knows exactly what led to Raul's death. In any case, Raul is considered an urban legend, and folk songs like Narco Corridos are sung to honor his violent and untimely tragic life. They say the youth are the hope of the future, but Cesar Raul Meza Torres was not able to reach his future despite all the plans and capabilities he had. One thing for sure, living a life of violence could never bring you to peace. What do you think of our video today? Let us know.